one single thing: peak season surcharge. But at this point in Nigeria's economy, it has the potential to trigger a multitude of unpalatable consequences, like delay in release of goods at ports, demurrage, high prices, job losses, factory inefficiencies, and so on. Surcharge has always been charged on shipments when shipping lines begin to experience higher volumes of business close to major holidays. Conventional wisdom in the world of commerce dictates that large volumes drive down prices. Not so in the case of shipping. Peak season leads to congestion at ports and warehouses, more time to load and unload at ports of origins and ports of destinations, respectively. This year's peak season surcharge is so astronomical that Nigerian Shippers Council has galvanized the troops, in a manner of speaking, with the resolve that this must be resisted and indeed quashed. Hello and welcome. My name is Rekia Zubairu and I am your host on The Shipper. Our focus on the program today is the peak season surcharge and what the council is doing to tackle this issue. Also on the agenda is an examination of the age-old container deposit regime. This and our regular segment, Tidbits, will come your way after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. In the upcoming report, Lucy Ulugbe dissects the meeting of stakeholders which was held at the headquarters of the Nigerian Shippers Council in Apapa, Lagos, to discuss the increase in peak season surcharges on Nigerian trade routes. Discussions were robust and far-reaching, according to Lucy.
This meeting, convened by the Nigerian Shippers Council, brought together organized private sector, including captains of industry, shippers, freight forwarders, and the Nigerian Ports Authority, among other stakeholders, to deliberate on the peak season surcharge and its potential devastating effect on Nigeria's economy. No doubt, the issue of cost is very important in shipping. As port economic regulator, the Nigerian Shippers Council statutorily is charged with the responsibility of regulating costs to make the ports effective and competitive. The Chairman Governing Board of the Nigerian Shippers Council, Honorable Bashir Machina, in his remarks, said that the emergence of surcharge in a period when the nation is grappling with recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is insensitive, unjustified, and if not addressed, will have a negative effect on the economy.
No doubt, the issue of cost is indispensable to shipping. We must have scientific tariff to make our ports effective and competitive. As you are aware, the Nigerian Shippers Council is about to negotiate tariff with the shipping companies, which will reduce the cost of doing business, thereby making Nigeria more friendly to shippers. While appreciating the shipping companies, I urge the terminal operators to please embrace negotiations in arriving at fair pricing of shipping companies. Recently, the Federal Ministry of Transport has directed all regulated service providers to submit their charges to Nigerian Shippers Council for negotiation and moderation. I urge the parties to oblige. Today we are discussing the issue of surcharges. This is a negative factor which we must address. I hope we will have an analytical review and come up with resolutions. And I call on the federal government to list and act on our resolutions.
Speaking further, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Shippers Council, Hassan Bello, stressed that Nigeria compared to other countries has thus far arguably stemmed the tide of the economic effect of the pandemic because of the strong intervention from the Central Bank of Nigeria. He insisted that a 400% increase in surcharge is not what any economy can bear at this time.
Shippers Council must work harder to see that these unethical practices, are eliminated. But then the cost, it cannot be of general application. We must have, concession to our countries and to our economy. We have barely survived, the COVID because Nigeria has strong intervention from the Central Bank of Nigeria. We are determined, we are resolute, Shippers Council, to see that this is done. We are rallying around everybody because we cannot do it alone. We have the Nigerian Ports Authority, we have NIMASA and other agencies solidly behind Nigerian Shippers Council, and that is quite pleasing. We need this private sector to lead, but that private sector must also be responsible. We reach Ministry of Trade. Individually, our association should write to as many as possible. I'm very happy MAN is considering this because MAN is critical to our economy. Very important, the freight forwarders, are in sync with this. They are the agents, of the shippers. And even subsequently put by the shippers, who are the owners of the cargo, are going to protest against this. So we are going to have total protest.
One after the other, stakeholders at the meeting pledged their support for the Nigerian Shippers Council, seeking the immediate withdrawal of the peak season surcharge while commending the Shippers Council for leading the charge.
I think it is a good one to invite all stakeholders. And I'm so happy to hear that the Nigerian Shippers Council has already written to the union expressing refusal to accept this surcharge. Surely it will affect our economy, and I think this is not the right time to think of any increase in surcharge because of the effect of the COVID-19 on the international economy.
We support you 101%, and may God give you the strength.
The last thing we want to hear is this kind of unbearable increase in charges. Because ultimately, this will end up adding to the burden of the ordinary people on the streets. We are talking about poverty, we are talking about unemployment, we are talking about how to fix this economy. So this is an issue that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry will be fully supporting the Nigerian Shippers Council in. We are prepared to agree on the strategy to do this individually and collectively.
We are, of course, feeling the effect of what is actually happening now at the ports from our suppliers. It's going to definitely push us out of the market. And because of the several issues we have been facing, I have been working closely with our officers in the Nigerian Shippers Council. We have a situation whereby one of our shipments was delayed in the port for, I think, 8 months, just because of delayed transfer. So if we are facing all those, and this is going to be added, it's going to be devastating. So we lend our full weight and full support to the struggle being spearheaded by the Nigerian Shippers Council.
We want to assure you that Dangote Industries is in full support of this cause, and we are with the Nigerian Shippers Council and all the stakeholders.
Chief Kajitan Agu is Nigerian Shippers Council's Director of Consumer Affairs, who spoke about the Nigerian Shippers Council role in looking into the surcharge.
As you can deduce from the meeting, the surcharge is outrageous. Up to $1,500 per container. So if it is imposed on the economy, definitely is going to affect the economy of Nigeria negatively. This is equally coming at a time the Nigerian economy is in a depressed mood, caused by the corona pandemic. So number one is that it's going to lead to general inflation. Equally, it's going to add to the cost of doing business at the Nigerian ports. Don't forget that manufacturing concern, some of them will even fold off. They will go out of business because definitely increasing the cost of raw material means increasing equally the cost of final product. So in the market, the ordinary Nigerian, will equally suffer it, because the trick of the trade is that any additional cost borne by the importer will be passed to the final consumer, and this will equally lead to a general decrease in the standard of living of the citizenry. We have already put some action plans in place. Firstly, we have addressed letters to the European Community Shipowners Association. We have, on this matter, we have equally addressed letters to the individual line that introduced the surcharges.
Having secured the cooperation of the gathering on how to proceed on the peak season surcharge, the Executive Secretary introduced another subject.
We have seen how devastating it is for, through no fault of anybody, the container regime must be reformed. Three cardinal things is a lot of money is being paid by shippers through freight forwarders for container deposit. Now, if you have, is it 4 or 3 days to return these containers, if you are going to receive your deposit, then it becomes impossible. The reason being, the shipping companies have no holding bay. That's number one. Number two, the road is clogged, so you won't be able to return. But despite all this, you are still made to do that. And we said there must be easier way of doing that. In other countries, this is done through some indemnity or a certain insurance.
The Executive Secretary's presentation on the replacement of container deposit with container insurance can be said to have received the blessing of the majority of those present.
Admire what Shippers Council has done, all the actions taken and valued, and I hope it will be supported by us individually and collectively.
There is no, blanket global best practice for the management, but there is always, an average standard that they need to put in place in order to shortchange the shippers. So in Nigeria here, we're not gotten it right. What they are doing is not normal. It is unusual. The kind of money they take on container deposit is what we are, not comfortable with.
However, Dr. Kayode Farinto sounded a note of caution.
I'm a slow learner in school, and I still want to be carried along very well. Yeah. What value will it add to when you're not bringing insurance? Don't forget that about 40 or 30% of our consignment have insurance already. Some of them are valid insurance that will even expire at the consignee's warehouse. So you are bringing the issue of insurance, and we need to sit down and look at it. It's not something we call just conclude today here. Me, I'm a slow learner. I will have to take it back home. We'll study it because we know how many billions of naira have been slashed away on the issue of container charge.
It was made very clear that the container insurance would certainly not be an additional cost to shippings.
Dr. Farinto, this is just a proposition. What I tell you is a preliminary discussion. We are looking at the options of insurance. But the purpose is we are not going to replace container deposit with something more sinister. We are going with international practice and to make it ease of doing business.
You can bet that the last has not been heard of this. We will keep you posted. Up next is our Tidbits segment with Abike Ido, where she brings you up to speed with events around the world in shipping as well as feedback from stakeholders. Tidbits on your favorite maritime program, The Shipper. I am Abike Ido. The Nigerian Shippers Council carried out an enforcement exercise on one of the major terminals, TICT, for certain infractions against shippers. The council's enforcement team, led by Mrs. Celine Ifora, the head of monitoring and enforcement, sealed the premises of the company in line with our mandate as port economic regulator. The company had received the mandatory number of warnings before the enforcement was carried out.
We obey every law of the country. We are not in the fault of any law. Please, let's go. And madam, I'm sure you are supposed to give us a warning. You have not given us any warning. You did not. Madam, you give us any warning. You don't have any warning of first
Sure, you are a lawyer. When you go to court, they will tell you that I'm giving.
Informing us, giving us a warning.
We did. Maybe they didn't tell you.
We don't have any warning from you, madam.
We did. And your people received it.
Now on to other matters. The Nigerian Shippers Council recovered over ₦1 million from a shipping line for an importer. The council's complaint unit received a letter from Great Creative Deal Services, an importer, who alleged that a shipping line refused to refund its container deposits. The council organized a tripartite meeting, and after careful analysis, the shipping line was ordered to pay and provide proof of payment for the sum of ₦1,047,300 to Great Creative Deal Services within 1 week. To enhance trade facilitation in the country, the Nigerian Shippers Council urged both parties to comply with the industry's standard operating procedure. A cautionary note to shippers: do not be too hasty in paying what you suspect to be exorbitant dues and surcharges. A letter of appreciation from Dr. Jik Osondu of Petroscan, who received an exaggerated duty of nearly 700,000 and hurriedly paid it without dispute, illustrates this point. He subsequently received another duty fee of nearly ₦1.4 million on a different consignment. He immediately approached our complaints units. This time around, Shippers Council reduced the fee by almost 50%. Dr. Osondu profusely expressed gratitude to our officers in Aba and Lagos for, in his words, their rare devotion and professional thoroughness in addressing the issue. Do note that the Nigerian Shippers Council's offices in the 6 geopolitical zones are always at your service. And here is our complaint register for the week. We have been tracking the activities of the complaint unit since the easing of the lockdown, and this is our report. A total number of 15 complaints were received from different organizations. Some of these complaints are against terminals and some are against shipping companies. These complaints include arbitrary terminal charges, excessive storage charge, outrageous detention fees, demurrage waivers, access card blockage, vandalized vehicles, and refund of container deposits. 3 of these cases have been resolved, while 12 are still under investigation. We shall continue to update you on complaints being handled by the Nigerian Shippers Council. And here are some tidbits on shipping around the world. Hermitage Offshore Services and 28 of its subsidiaries has filed for voluntary petitions for reorganization under the U.S. Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code amid the global oil slump and coronavirus pandemic. The New York-listed company said it took this decision following a prolonged slump in oil prices, driven in part by COVID-19 and its effect on the company's business. To keep up, Hermitage Offshore sold 2 anchor handling tug supply vessels, which resulted in a loss of approximately $4 million. The company's remaining fleet of 10 PSVs and 11 crew boats operates mainly in the North Sea and the west coast of Africa. International Container Terminal Services Incorporated, a company spanning 6 continents, announced a total throughput of 4.8 million TEU in the first 6 months of the year 2020, down 5% year-on-year across its 32 terminals. The decrease in volume was primarily due to the decline in trade activities, which resulted from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic
on global trade and lockdown restrictions. Enrique Razon Jr., the chairman and president of ICTSI, is quoted as saying, "COVID-19 is now the major challenge for most business globally, and we expect the second half of the year will continue to be challenging and marked with uncertainties." He added that ICTSI is well positioned to navigate through these uncertain times. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore has launched 6 next-generation patrol craft to enhance the nation's frontline capabilities. These 17-meter patrol craft are equipped with intelligent port marine systems to enhance enforcement patrols and respond to marine emergencies, as well as enhance navigational safety and protection of the marine environment. The vessels have predictive capabilities with both real-time and historical data and can integrate data analytics with onboard surveillance. The new patrol craft also possesses new surveillance capabilities such as multi-sensor marine thermal cameras, chemical gas detectors, and drones. Equipped with a dispersant spray system and containment booms, the patrol craft can also be deployed to respond to oil spills. And that's it on this week's Tidbits. Till next time.
Thank you, Abike. And this is where we draw the curtains on the shipper today. Do join us again. Same place, same time, same day, next week for another exciting edition. Goodbye and have a great week ahead.